Welcome to a special edition of Andy Ari On3, presented by BetMGM. We are here live at the MGM Grand in Detroit. We are going to Michigan, Ohio State tomorrow, but we are enjoying ourselves in the lovely BetMGM Sportsbook right now. We just watched clean old-fashioned hate. Georgia beats Georgia Tech. And Ari, I ask you this question. What would Georgia like its next game to be? Would it like it to be the SEC championship game, or would Georgia like to play in the Cotton Bowl or the Orange Bowl in a playoff game because it got a bye and it didn't have to play in the SEC championship game?
Just be the 4 seed and not have to play in the SEC championship game or in the first round of the playoff. Listen, if Kirby Smart is going to have a that goes semi-viral to viral about never wanting to take the easy way out and going through hard makes you better, don't talk to me about not wanting to win the SEC championship game.
I don't know what's going on with your mic, Ari. Apparently, you just get – we're not going to share mics again. Okay. Here, you switch mics with me. Is Ari still quiet, everybody? I want to know. Is Ari just a quiet talker?
These eyes are never going to see another man of love like you.
Do I sound quiet now?
No, it's that mic's the bad mic, Andy. I don't know what's going on with that one.
What is the problem, producer?
I don't know.
The mic I'm talking to, you can't hear me?
I mean, barely. Ari's got the
okay,
big
just
mic.
get rid of that mic. We'll share it.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
So what I was saying before the mic issue, which I pin it on me because that's what happens. It's prom night. Andy, if you're going to go viral or semi-viral, it was pretty viral. Talking about how losers take the easy way out.
Yep.
And that in life, going through hard is more rewarding and makes you a better warrior, and all the things that he was saying about how important it is to never shy away from hard things. You can't, in good faith, also be like, well, I wish that we don't have to play in the SEC championship game. And the last thing, and the best thing about sharing mics is you can't interrupt me, is SEC ball. It just means more. It just means more. If there's any conference championship that means something that it doesn't in other conferences, it's the SEC championship.
It just means I would rather be sitting at home and resting, especially if my center just got hurt tonight. If one of my offensive tackles was out or was hurt and had to come back in, if my offensive line was just banged up, I would like to sit at home next week and also have a bye. Absolutely.
Loser shit.
Call me a loser all you want. Sounds awesome. This is the system that was created. Yeah. Everybody wanted to change the rules, including me, including you, after last year, because the buys didn't make sense, because the buys were built for a system where there were 5 fairly balanced power conference, and by the time they actually got to the 12-team playoff, the buys didn't make sense anymore. So we got rid of the buy, or we got rid of the conference champions only get buys. So because they did that, this is now the system. I want the thing that gets me closest to the national championship, that gets me into the national championship game. That's all I want.
Yeah, I think that like what you're saying is just true, right? Like the question really is more than anything, how important is the SEC championship? And is the SEC championship probably more important to a team that, like, say, like A&M, for instance, that hasn't won it before?
Yeah.
They're playing tonight against Texas. They're starting in about 40 minutes. To them, getting to Atlanta is important because they haven't experienced it as much as Georgia has.
Yeah.
That said, I don't know if the playoff committee is we don't know the answer to this yet because it's the first time in the system with these rules. Will a team that doesn't play in the SEC championship game land in the top 4? Like, do you think that's going to happen?
And that's the question. So Kevin in the chat asks, don't you rest after the conference championship game? It's the same amount of time, just different weeks. No, Kevin, if Georgia doesn't make the SEC championship game and still gets a bye, it rests the SEC championship game week and rests the first week of the playoff.
But there's also a counter argument to that too, which is, do you really want to go a whole month without playing a game at the most important time? Like, I know that's kind of been like an old adage of, like, in the old bowl system, when your final game of the week or year or regular season before conference championship games was in the end of November and you didn't play till New Year's Day, people say, well, you get, like, ask Oregon.
Yeah.
Did Oregon benefit from all the time off last year, or did Oregon just end up playing the wrong team at the wrong time?
So here's the thing, though. I don't think Georgia would be like, oh, no, please don't send us. If they get in Like if Alabama loses and Georgia plays Texas A&M in the championship game, or Texas A&M loses and Georgia plays Alabama, like they're going to go as hard as they can. They're going to try to win the SEC championship. I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying though, Kirby Smart is probably sitting there going, well, if A&M and Alabama win, that's fine with me.
I think Kirby Smart is an absolute dog, pun intended. And I think that he wants to hang as many SEC championship banners as he possibly can. That said, Andy, here's the converse that we initially were arguing about that we're not mentioning right now, which is what would you rather do? Be the 5 seed and play the group of 5 in the first round, or go to the SEC championship game with an opportunity of winning your conference championship and then earning a bye and then not having to play a game.
Or getting a bye and not having to play in the SEC championship game.
No, but what if they don't? What if they reward?
But we don't know that they will, and they keep putting Georgia forth.
Yeah, I mean, like if you feel like they cemented a top 4 seed if they don't play again, that's interesting. I'm very curious if that could change.
Okay, but here's the thing: like right now, the SEC championship game is Texas A&M, Alabama. If they both win, if Texas A&M beats Alabama, they're not going to knock Georgia down. Like Alabama's not going to suddenly jump up to 4.
Yeah, but if Alabama wins, then A&M might not fall behind Georgia.
That's true, but that is the risk Georgia has to take. But I'm telling you right now, they're just like, oh, we're going to let these offensive linemen heal up if we can.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in the trenches too, it's the most important thing. But I feel like just the competitor in him would probably, since it's not a guarantee, you go to Atlanta. You just stay in town for a little bit, 7 days? You just
No, I think they go back to Athens. It's like 45 miles away.
No, they got great food in Atlanta, though. Yeah, no, it's very interesting. But so here's the other question that I asked you while we were watching the game. It's important. We don't need to debate whether they want to play or not. If Ohio State does not win the national championship, and as you know, it's very difficult to repeat, who, after watching that, do you think is the most likely team to do it?
I have no idea. Oregon? Maybe. Texas A&M? Maybe.
The thing is, last year, Georgia and Tech played a close game too.
Right. Closer than this year.
Did watching this game make you feel a little bit different, if at all? Because I didn't really change my opinion of Georgia after tonight.
Well, my opinion of Georgia, I guess, depends on how healthy is their offensive line, because if it's not healthy, they're going to have problems with most of these teams they would play in the playoff. If it's healthy, they can play with all of them.
Okay, you want my actual opinion?
Yeah.
Miami. Joking. Sorry, joking.
Now, you did get put in a pretzel tonight by somebody on Twitter when they asked you if Georgia Tech – now, this is not a possibility because Georgia won the game, but it's a fun hypothetical to watch Ari squirm. This person asked – if Georgia Tech wins the game and has the same record and a head-to-head win against Georgia, they should be above Georgia, right?
Yeah, I really like that comparison, because if you make that comparison, that means you haven't heard a single word that I've said all year. And that means that Georgia's wins over Ole Miss and Tennessee don't count. See, that's the thing that we're not understanding about the Notre Dame thing. Notre Dame does not have a top 10 win to offset it the way that Georgia would. Georgia lost to Georgia Tech, absolutely. But if you go break down Georgia's resume, it is different enough from Georgia Tech's resume to separate the two. That does not exist in the other scenario, so it's not the same thing, and I'm not a pretzel.
I love how mad it makes you.
But it's not a pretzel. Am I wrong? Do you see the distinction?
I see it.
Of course you do.
All
I was
right.
joking. I was throwing a little grenade in there. Hey,
All right.
You know what? We're having fun. We're having some Modelo here. It's a fun night.
So the chat is funny because it's half Georgia fans just in shambles over Mike Bobo. They're so mad at Mike Bobo right now. And then it's half people going, Georgia fans are so spoiled. Quit whining.
Yeah, just win your rivalry game. Your offensive coordinator sucks. You only have one loss. I don't know, man. Georgia, to me, and I don't know if I'm going to get buried for saying this, clip it, put it on the internet. Does Georgia not feel similar to what they were last year?
Kind of.
And to me, if they play a team and wait for it, like Notre Dame, or a team that's physical in the trenches and has enough playmaking, I feel like their destiny if they don't figure out how to be consistent offensively, will be similar to what happened last year. Is that fair?
It is fair. And again, I know I sound like a broken record here, but if you have a banged up offensive line, and that goes for any of the teams in the playoff, if you're out 3 offensive line starters or 2 offensive line starters, you're going to have problems with whoever you're going to play.
Yeah, and then that brings us back to the way we start the video. It's like, well, if you actually do have injury issues, you probably want to take as much time off, get everybody right, and then come out swinging full speed. So, yeah, but you want to do the SEC breakdowns for what happens tonight and what this means for Georgia, because Georgia needs a little bit more help than just one result tonight.
Yes, I do. So if Texas A&M wins, then we move on to the Iron Bowl. If Texas wins, it means Georgia's in, right? Georgia's in.
That's right. And I'm super excited about like the ability to talk tonight, Andy, about if Texas does win the game, whether or not they should have scheduled Ohio State and that becoming a talking point for the next 24 hours. It's going to be a really fun time.
I got my mic back. I bet this is working.
Is it working?
I figured it out.
What happened?
Well, everybody in the chat was blaming Producer River.
Good job, guys.
It was not Producer River's
Way to
fault.
go.
It was my fault. I clicked the wrong setting on the camera. Totally my fault.
There are 2 things I know unequivocally, Andy, that are River's fault. 1, that microphone, and 2, the pube in the microwave at the On3 headquarters. There's no way that River isn't behind both of those issues.
No, it clicked in my head. I don't know if you could see it. Like, my eyes lit up as I was going through the SEC championship game scenario. I was like, I figured it out.
What was it? What did you do?
I clicked the correct settings.
Okay.
And now I'm right.
Dumbass.
Judge Smales must know what we've planned for this episode. Any news on Lane Kiffin? So we don't know what Lane Kiffin's going to do yet. We have not gotten a decision. The decision is still going to play out tomorrow. But the press conference got weird. Okay? The press conference got weird. So before the press conference, there was an incident on the field where Lane Kiffin went to speak to Ben Garrett, who works for our Ole Miss site at On3, Ole Miss Spirit. Ben apparently during a podcast this week said something to the tune of, he's talking about Lane Kiffin. He said, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. Hoes don't act right, which there's been considerable debate about this. I believe Corrupt in the early 90s was the first rapper to say can't turn into a hoe into a housewife. What Ben is quoting, though, is the Ludacris song Ho, not to be confused with Area Codes. But that he's quoting that Ludacris song.
And I don't know if you guys know this about Andy. He's a Ludacris historian.
It's the best Ludacris song. It's not close. So Lane Kiffin goes up to Ben on the field and says something to the tune of, call me a hoe again and see how that goes.
And on the field, meaning after the game.
After the game.
Yeah.
After the Egg Bowl. So we're in the press conference now. Trey Wallace from Outkick asked Lane a question, and Trey has given us permission to use this video. Trey's an awesome reporter.
Good dude,
and you can see he asked really good questions. This question gets a really interesting answer, and then Ben jumps in. So you just got to watch.
Lane, has there been some frustration over the last couple of weeks? I saw you post-game. There was an incident right before you went into the locker room, and it just seemed like you were a little bit upset maybe about some things that have come out over the last couple of weeks or how things have gone the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think, I understand your guys' job, and I think things are fair. Like I say, when questions come, those are fair questions. Maybe I can't answer them. Maybe I don't see them the same. But when you call someone a hoe, that's a different level of stuff. Can't make hoes into housewives, or something like that. That's about as bush league as stealing Trinidad's jersey like Mississippi State did last night. Like we had another one, but so I ain't got any respect for that.
I don't either, but that wasn't the comment. The comment was, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. Hoes don't act right. It's not calling you a hoe. It's about commitment. And that's what really the question is. You wanted the commitment from people were asking about where you're committed to. You're still not doing so. So you don't think there's anything wrong with getting upset about something so innocuous as that and paying attention after a win, especially in the A Bowl?
Yeah, let's move on from that. Next question. Lane, what's the most difficult part of the decision that you have to make? Is there one aspect of it that you labor over the most?
And there's a lot into it, and I don't, are hard decisions. You guys have them all the time. You got to make decisions about, jobs you take and where you move and all those things. And again, we get paid a lot, so understands ours is, under a different and spotlight and scrutiny. But, a lot of people that are critical of it are the same people that they do it all the time. They make decisions and, they got to figure out the best things to do. In other professions, it's a little easier because you get to go to places and, they bring you there and you go for a weekend, you see all the schools and neighborhoods and all the stuff, and then you make the decision. And, our jobs are more difficult.
So Will in the chat says, sounds like a guy who's leaving. Paxton says he took it the wrong way. I got to tell you, Ari, if somebody called me a hoe, even as an analogy, I would probably take it the wrong way. I'm kind of on Lane's side on that one, and I like Ben. We work with Ben.
Okay, well, I actually am on Ben's side.
Okay.
Because as somebody who says outlandish things and uses analogies very regularly, I can appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing. The analogy used the word hoe. So usually in my career, it's been few and far between, but whenever I have ran into
like when
coaches,
you called Matt Rule soft?
Exactly. There are certain things that you say that can trigger somebody that veers off the point that you were trying to make.
Yes.
Lane Kiffin fixated on the hoe part of it and missed the analogy.
The housewife part?
What the analogy was about, are you bought in, or are you basically what
are you about that life?
He was saying you,
or are you changed?
Are you a climber or are you loyalist?
Well,
That's
no.
all
I
he
think
said.
with Lane Kiffin, it's because if you watch the documentary, it's like I've changed. This place has changed me. I'm different now, and I think that is where the Ole Miss fans are getting upset. And you got to understand what Ben's job for OM Spirit is really different than our jobs. Like our job, we cover the whole sport. We cover every team. We try not to show any favoritism toward any one team. The Notre Dame fans think you hate them. You don't. But
they thought I loved them last year.
But
it's okay.
Ben is the voice of the Ole Miss fan. That's his job. And I can tell you right now, a lot of Ole Miss fans feel like Lane Kiffin said all these said all these things in the documentary. Like, I've changed. This place has changed me. It's different here. I'm different. I'm a different person. Well, to them, if he goes to LSU, he looks just like the guy who left Tennessee for USC 16 years ago.
And what's happened here is that Lane Kiffin is locking in on the verbiage and the language and not acknowledging the point, which I think was valid. So,
Right.
like, that's where you want, like,
You have to be careful with your choice of words. And
I mean, that was a pretty terrible choice of words.
Yeah.
But as somebody who's been in the situation, I don't know, 6 months ago, sometimes I use a terrible choice of words. Now, I understand, but here's the thing that I don't know is the anger and the fixation on that in that moment. Does that tell you anything about where his head is?
Not really. No, I still think if he were staying at Ole Miss, he would have just said he's staying at Ole Miss. He would have said that at the 50-yard line during the post-game interview.
Yeah. It's just kind of a bizarre timing after walking off the field, clinching a playoff spot, first 11-win season in Ole Miss history, and beating your rival, and then that's where your head's at.
Yeah, I'm curious how Ole Miss fans feel about that. I've been, obviously reading their boards all week. I think they're pretty upset. I would be upset too if he leaves. Like, if I were them, I get it. But he's also right in that he's a person deciding whether he wants to take a new job or not. We've all been there. We've all been, like, everybody knows if you're happily employed somewhere, but somebody gives you what you think is a better offer, that it is uncomfortable when you have to make that phone call, when you have to call your boss, when you have to call your coworkers. I mean, I remember the night at the Athletic when I had to call my boss and then call Bruce Feldman and Stuart Mandel and you and tell you I was leaving. And, it's tough.
I wanted to murder you, by the way.
I know you did.
Yeah.
I know you did. Not as bad as Ross Dellinger's wife when I left SI. So
yeah,
she wanted to murder
but
me.
also, we're all adults here and understand too that, like, you have a family to look out for and your own well-being, and it's complicated. It's
it is. And everybody's situation is different. So I feel like we should respect that with Lane Kiffin as he decides what the job is. But also, there's another piece of this, and that is if you were in his position, because it's not about money, they will pay the same thing. to take the LSU job, if you take it, it means you are not coaching Ole Miss in the playoff. And those people that you brought to the playoff, that you got to this point, you are leaving them. And that's a hard pill to swallow right there.
Yeah. It really is. So, I think that like the next 24 hours, like you and I have to get up a little bit early and head up to Ann Arbor because this news could pop at 8 a.m. or it could pop at 8 p.m. or anytime.
I got to tell you, I was saying this as we were watching the games. I don't know about you guys in the chat and you guys watching. Is the Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing messing with your head? Is the games being Black Friday and this Lane Kiffin having the game and saying I'll decide tomorrow? Like I keep thinking, do I need to change my flight on Sunday because he's going to announce? No. He's going to announce it Saturday. Meanwhile, the rest of the college football world might be fixated on Ohio State, Michigan, or one of these other games, the Iron Bowl, depending on what time this thing is.
Yeah, and we might be fixated on one because we're going to it. Yeah. So, I think that that was a nice little appetizer. Tonight is the first real.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say the first real? Not that Georgia Tech wasn't a real matchup, but I'm saying like the first like of the entrees. Is that a fair thing to say?
I would say that, yes. I think Georgia Tech could have been if Georgia Tech, and I realized it was a one-possession game. They had to throw into the end zone at the end.
It was a great appetizer.
But if it had been the 8 overtime game from last year, that would have been different.
Then that would have been the cheesy bread.
Exactly. But yes, Texas A&M, Texas affects the SEC championship game, affects the playoff race. It's kicking off very soon. We're going to get in position, and we will be here right afterwards to talk about it all. We'll talk to you then.
Thanks for being here, guys.